What are drop sets? I see people doing drop sets in the gym, or at least believing and thinking that they're doing drop sets in the gym, sometimes doing them correctly, oftentimes incorrectly. Today, I'm going to give you some tips on how to do them correctly, where to apply them in your training, and hopefully you can head out and use this intensity method correctly next time you hit the gym. Now, typically when you're doing weight training sets, you have a target rep range that you're shooting for, and that should be accompanied by a particular effort level that you're trying to match. So the example would be doing lying hamstring curls, and you're going to try and hit 8 to 10 reps, and inside of 8 to 10 reps, I want you to be at an 8 out of 10 RPE. Rate of perceived exertion. Another way of saying that is when you get between 8 and 10 reps, you should only have 2 repetitions left in the tank before you were to fail. At first, that can seem a little bit complicated, maybe complex, but if you train this way over and over again, and you just keep the concept of how many reps do I have left in the tank in mind, you'll start to get really, really comfortable knowing that, hey, I only have about 1 or 2 reps left before I know my form is going to break down, or I'm going to have to basically stop hitting full range of motion. And that becomes a valuable tool for you to learn how to progress. Now, from time to time, most weeks of training should look like taking that concept of rep ranges and RPE and simply trying to improve upon what you did last week within the same context and within the same prescriptions, but maybe moving the RPE up a little bit or trying to increase your loads and stay in the same RPE zone, indicating that you're just getting stronger in an exercise. That works most of the time and can work for most people week after week after week. As we progress in a periodized training program, we want to intensify our training. Adding weight is one way to intensify. Adding reps is another way to intensify. Then there are other methods that we can use to add specific levels of intensity to an exercise, and drop sets are one of them. I'm not a big fan of training beyond failure, and that is what the RPE model really helps us with. Hey, I want you to get to 9 out of 10 RPE, and that is a high level of effort without going past failure. Now, what happens when you actually go to failure? Well, failure as we define it at Functional Bodybuilding and many people in the industry is when your technique actually falls apart. So I fail when I can't do the repetitions correctly. So let's go back to the example of the lying hamstring curl, what we were doing today. If I do 10 reps at 120 pounds on the hamstring curl machine, and on the 10th rep, my hips shift or lift off, or I don't get the full range of motion, bringing the pad all the way up to my butt, that constitutes my failure point. Now, I could stop the set, I could rest 90 seconds or 2 minutes, and repeat and maybe get the same effort. But another way to keep training and pushing my intensity in that set when I failed at rep 10 would be to reach over to the weight plate stack, move the pin up 1 notch to 100 pounds instead of 120, and continue to do reps. Because I'm no longer capable of completing full range of motion reps at 100 pounds, then I could definitely take the load off about 20 pounds or 10 to 20%, and I could continue to do repetitions. And that is exactly what a drop set is. A drop set is when you actually reach mechanical or form failure on a lift, and then without a rest, without a break, you immediately take off 10, 20, sometimes 30% or more, and you continue to do reps until you hit a second form failure. So a single drop set on the hamstring curl machine would be what we just said. I do 8 to 10 reps, and I reach that 9 or 10 out of 10 on the RPE scale. Immediately, once I put the weight down, I reach over to the pin, I move it up, and I decrease the weight by 20%. I immediately start reps again. I keep going. This time, I can get 6, maybe 7 more reps at full range of motion with good form before again I fail. At that point, I would stop, and that would be a single drop set. These, again, are intensification methods that I think would be best to use in the later weeks of a training cycle. Why wouldn't you want to do this every single day when you're in the gym? Well, it starts to complicate how well we can track progressive overload in these top sets where we're actually trying to increase our strength and our weight in a given rep range. That is your sweet spot for progressing your training week after week after week. Plus, when you start doing too many intensification methods all at once and you're constantly doing drop sets or other methods that we can talk about here on this channel in the future, you start to accumulate a lot more fatigue in your body, which makes it harder to recover and harder to come back the next week and keep pushing progressive overload. So don't get carried away with your drop sets. I see people that only do drop sets when they do bicep curls. They're constantly just trying to push the volume on those last few sets of their dumbbell curls, and they're never actually trying to get stronger on that first most important set. And so that's a caution against using drop sets too frequently or any intensification method like this drop set. So for this particular drop set that we did today with the hamstring curl, we did 1 to 2 warm-up sets to know where our starting weight was going to be for that 9 out of 10 RPE zone in our 8 to 10 rep range. So both Cliff and I doing this exercise have a pretty good idea of what we needed to do weight-wise to get into the right RPE zone for 8 to 10 reps. Our first set was simply that. Push, get close to 10 reps at an RPE of 9 out of 10. On the next 2 sets, we actually did drop sets on each set. So the second set, it was 120 pounds for 10 reps, and then immediately dropped down to 90 pounds for another 6 to 7 reps. And that was our second set. And I tried to match that on my third set as well. So warm up with 2 lighter weights to get to your first working weight, perform a tough 8 to 10 reps, and then on your second set, again, perform a tough 8 to 10 reps where you reach or get very close to failure, and right after you hit that point, drop the weight down by 20% and do more reps until you reach form failure. That's drop set number 1. Rest, let your partner go, come back, and do drop set number 2 to finish off the lying hamstring curl sets. Okay, what questions do you have about drop sets? What is your experience with them? Do you use them frequently? Do you use them rarely? Is this the first time you've heard about it? And if you have any tips on how people should be doing drop sets in their training that have worked for you, drop them in the comments below. Like, what exercise do you love to use a drop set on? Not all exercises work really well for drop sets. Some are absolutely brutal. Others work beautifully. Some build a ton of fatigue. Some don't build that much fatigue. I prefer to do them on hamstring curls. I love them for lateral shoulder raises. They work great for me. I want to hear what's great for you. Again, drop them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.